How am I going to die? Will I suffer when I die? Will I have a peaceful death, or will it be full of pain? These are normal questions that every human being has, and few ever get the real answers to until death comes. But if you knew not only the manner and the method that you were going to die, and not only the hour and the days before it happened, but it had been written down for you to read by a distant relative 1,000 years before your birth, how would that make you feel? And what if you had to read that document from childhood until your death? That would be a horrible and frightening thing for most people. Incredibly, this is precisely what happened to Jesus. What is even more stunning is Jesus had knowledge of his human death before he ever came into our world. King David penned some incredibly prophetic words in Psalm 22, which made no sense at the time, but looking back at the crucifixion, they make perfect sense now. Here's what David wrote. "For dogs have surrounded me. The congregation of the wicked has enclosed me. They pierce my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They look and stare at me. They divide my garments among them. And for my clothing, they cast lots." That's Psalm 22, verses 16 through 18. Little did David know just how special and powerful those words were. These are some of the most horrific and yet wonderful words that have ever been put onto a page. They depict the absolute precision of the scene of the crucifixion, even though David had never witnessed one. In fact, that form of death had not even been invented by the Persians and not even perfected by the Romans later on. These are some of the most prophetic words that confirm the type of death that the Messiah would suffer. It was the Holy Spirit who gave those words to the king that day to confirm the future death of another king. That king, the son of David and the Son of God, would quote from this psalm in verse 1. He did so while dying with his hands and feet pierced and a hostile crowd of mocking sinners gathered around him, taunting him in his pain, gambling for his clothing, and rejoicing at his death. Jesus knew these words better than anyone, for his Spirit gave them to David. Jesus knew this gruesome death was in his future, and yet he went forward toward it without hesitation. With the words of his forefather David reminding him of what he faced, he willingly went to the cross.